for the United States to transition fair and justly into a greener society, aims at by 2050 that the country should have net zero emissions while having created millions of jobs that would provide help to workers. And so that would help workers affected by the shifting economy, protect communities impacted by the direct effects of climate change, and pay special attention to groups that have been disproportionately affected by pollution in the past. And this kind of deal includes labor rights, plans for racial justice, social justice, universal health care, and affordable housing. So just like a quick video that we have here that explains what the Green New Deal is.
This is a group of the world.
Let me know if you guys can hear it. I'll turn it up. I don't really know how it works.
As climatologists. Every few years, they gather to tell us what's happening to our warming planet. In 2018, they had some news.
It's very clear that half a degree matters.
This is a chart of how much the global temperature has gone up since we discovered fossil fuels. For a long time, scientists said that we should try to stay under this line, 1.5 degrees Celsius. But that really, we'd be okay if we ended up below this line, 2 degrees. Now they were saying that wasn't quite right, that we're not safe in this zone, and that hitting this line will mean a spike in mass migration, wildfires, deadly heat stress, and it's going to cost us
trillions of dollars, millions of lives, irreversible, forever, changes that cannot be undone in centuries.
That's what happens if we get warming to stop here. And right now, we're on track to go way past that.
If action is not taken, it will take the planet into an unprecedented climate future if we compare it to what has happened during all of human evolutionary history.
We don't have a plan for this. So a group of American activists started to make one. They recruited a congresswoman and a senator to turn it into a congressional resolution. It's the first step of a plan that is mostly yet to be written. It's called the Green New Deal. And inside, there's something we might not want to hear. This is the Green New Deal resolution. It's only 14 pages. And to understand what's in it, it's important to understand what's not.
It is not a bill. It's not legislation. It's not a policy proposal. It's not anything that you could pass and make law.
This is my colleague, David Roberts. Dave's written a lot about the Green New Deal, and he says the 14-page resolution is just a first step.
The idea was, what's our shared understanding of the problem and what's necessary to solve it?
The Green New Deal contains basically two big ideas. The first is this question of what we need to do to solve the impending climate crisis. The Green New Deal says what climate scientists say. We need to completely stop burning fossil fuels as much as technologically feasible.
So that means things like rethinking vehicles, energy efficiency standards for buildings, changing the ways that we make steel and concrete.
That's Rihanna Gunn Wright. She's part of the think tank that came up with the Green New Deal.
Policy Director, New Consensus.
Rihanna writes policy, and she likes to rattle off things that moving away from fossil fuels will entail.
Moving to electric vehicles, make that home energy efficient. The food that you buy will be grown locally.
The Green New Deal requires building a lot of new things, the things to power the world without fossil fuels. And that'll create new jobs, new industries, an entire new economy. But Rihanna also emphasizes this is going to inflict a cost.
It's going to be a massive undertaking because we're actually asking, how do we rethink the ways that we use energy in our society?
A key principle of the Green New Deal is that it's too late to incrementally move away from fossil fuels. It has to happen quickly and dramatically. Or as Dave puts it,
people don't seem to get zero emissions means zero oil business, means zero natural gas business, no coal business, no internal combustion engine auto business. Like, the number zero means it all has to go.
Here's what decarbonizing will do. When we rip out fossil fuels from the economy, people are going to lose their jobs. And that means they'll lose their healthcare, maybe their homes. But the Green New Deal also has a second part. And this part acknowledges that transitioning Americans away from fossil fuels is a huge and difficult ask, especially at a time when so many live in economic uncertainty.
How can we go to the American people and say, I sure hope you aren't one of the people who loses a job, because then you might die like sick on the street. Good luck. Now, will you sign my bill?
This is the contradiction the Green New Deal describes. It's the part we may not want to hear. That we need to take action, and also that taking action will cause pain. Imagine you're a coal worker. If the US decarbonizes, you are going to suffer. So the second part is a set of promises for how Americans will be protected during the transition away from fossil fuels.
Jobs guarantee, public employment, universal healthcare, education, and training.
The basic elements of economic freedom that ought to be promised and due to every citizen of the richest country in the world.
And these promises aren't just for protecting coal workers. They're meant to keep all inequality from getting even worse during the transition. Because think about what direction wealth and power usually flow in when new things get built. It's the communities with the most political clout who decide where things can and can't be built. Wealthy corporations jump in to build those projects, and the good jobs go to the people who can afford to get trained for them.
The folks who have the fewest barriers will be the ones who benefit the most, and you're just going to see a replication of the issues that we have now.
In other words, anyone who's historically missed out on those benefits, especially the poor and people of color, could end up even worse off. So the Green New Deal says we should rebuild the American economy in a way that allows opportunity to flow more fairly.
The Green New Deal is about, while we have this chance, why don't we think about that proactively and change it in the ways that people have been calling for it to be changed for generations at this point?
So the first part of the Green New Deal is a set of goals to avoid a global disaster. The second part says we should do it in a way that helps ordinary Americans come out better on the other side. And that's it. That's all that's in these 14 pages. It's just a first step. And now, Rihanna's job is to figure out how to go from this 14-page resolution to an actual Green New Deal, a roadmap for what government needs to do next. And their goal is that if Democrats win power in 2020, there's a plan ready to execute. For now, though, the Green New Deal is just asking our leaders to acknowledge the scale of the problems we face. So, how's that going?
This disastrous plan
would be a massive government takeover
that would stifle innovation.
Wasteful and reckless spending.
rather than setting realistic goals.
We would go from about 94 million cows to 0 cows.
That resolution will not pass the Senate because there's no way to pay for it.
destructive, socialist daydream.
The Green New Deal is a long shot. But right now, it's also the only plan that acknowledges what we know is coming.
What is the world that we want? What is the country that we want? And how do we get there? And how do we get there in a way that is just? And how do we get there in a way that stabilizes the climate and heals our planet? Because if we don't do that, then there will be no paradigm because there will be nothing to fight for.
This is a group of the
Okay, cool.
Okay. Yeah, so that might be like a lot to understand just in the 7-minute video. So basically the goals of the Green New Deal is what they described is a just and fair transition to a green economy. So this means creating green jobs, which is expanding railways, installing solar panels, manufacturing wind turbines, are just a few examples. So these jobs must be high-wage union jobs. They must guarantee a fair wage and benefit parity for their workers. And if, example for that coal worker who doesn't have the training or the background to go into this Green New jobs, the Green New Deal states that there must be training and education opportunities for these workers to advance into a green economy. The Green New Deal also wants to secure clean air and water, healthy food, access to nature, climate and community resiliency, and a sustainable environment. So back to what their critics are saying, it's not specific, but it gives like goals of what should be done. An example in education, it's clear that climate justice must be taught in schools to address this problem that this country is facing. And proponents of the Green New Deal say that people who learn about climate change education will want to promote these kind of progress and change in some way or the other. You can go to the next slide. So this is just a reason why the Green New Deal is important, because like the video said, it's the plan that they have right now to do something about carbon dioxide emissions. And I chose a graph from 2018 because that's when AOC's Green New Deal campaign started to pick up gear and really get more well known in the public knowledge. So again, critics say that the Green New Deal is too vague, it's too broad, it doesn't have any real life strategies that it states, no technologies to pull carbon out of the air. So what proponents of the Green New Deal have to show is that parts of what the Green New Deal is asking for is already happening in different states around the United States. Go to the next slide. So for example, weatherization is happening in Illinois through the Future Energy Jobs Act. So weatherization is basically modifying a building to be protected against extreme weather, while making it more energy efficient. So in the Green New Deal, they have something about weatherization, and this is said through the Green New Deal for Public Housing Act, and the Future Energy Jobs Act in Illinois actually closely aligns with these goals. So currently approximately 4.8 million households are part of federal housing. And so these types of acts want to electrify all buildings in federal housing, add solar panels, and give them secure renewable energy sources. And so when this Future Energy Jobs Act was passed in Illinois, they were accomplishing similar goals to the Green New Deal for Public Housing Act, and this law sets standards for weatherization in Illinois, and it projects that 7,000 jobs in weatherization will be created in the state per year. So these types of laws that are already happening can give support for Green New Deal that would apply to the entire country. So another example of how the Green New Deal is technically in action is the Buy Clean California that's happening in our state. So in 2017, Governor Brown of California signed this law into action to target supply chain carbon emissions. So basically this targets how materials like steel, glass, and certain kinds of insulation are made. In that process is that process can produce carbon. So this law wants to examine that process and see what technologies and what techniques can be used to eliminate the carbons produced by these industries. So the specific ones that they're targeting are concrete, steel, rebar, flat glass, structural steel, and mineral wood board insulation.
Okay. Now I'm going to talk about who supports the Green New Deal, since we've already gone over what it is. So probably not super surprising. Democratic candidates are more likely to support the Green New Deal, and that's partly because the Green New Deal does advocate for strong government. So the government is doing a lot of work, and generally Republicans tend to favor state governments and a decentralized government. So there's that. And then of course, Trump doesn't, oh, somebody's coming home, so I'm gonna move. Okay. Trump does not support the Green New Deal because he also doesn't support the Paris Climate Agreement, which is kind of similar to the Green New Deal, but not quite as extreme. In an interview in October, he claimed that it would turn the US into a ninth world country if the nation implements the Green New Deal. He said our country will be a ninth world country, not a third world country, but a ninth world country, which, and so then Biden, this would be more relevant before the election, but since the election has already happened, but still Trump is currently still in office. So I thought I'd talk about it. Biden doesn't really support the Green New Deal. He has said that he hasn't, and then he's gone back on that because he doesn't want to alienate like leftists who support the Green New Deal, but he also doesn't want to lose like moderate voters because his whole thing is to like appeal to a wide range of people. So he hasn't really said that he supports it, like he's gone back and forth on that, but he supports what he calls the Biden New Deal, which incorporates aspects of a Green New Deal, but not all of it. So the Biden New Deal is a $2 trillion proposal that's more narrow and less aggressive than the Green New Deal. And there are some similarities because over the last few months, the Biden campaign has made efforts to collaborate with like different, with, I think it's called the Sunrise Movement, which is a group that was instrumental in the design of the Green New Deal, as well as collaborating with the Biden-Sanders Unity Task Force. And so he's committed to some, but not all of the task force recommendations. And it's not everything, which is what Varshini Prakash, the founder of the Sunrise Movement, said. It's not everything, but it's better than nothing at all. And if he's able to make good on these promises, it will represent a seismic shift in climate policy at the federal level. And so most of his plan revolves around cars and the oil industry, and not so much like energy itself and electrical energy. But yeah. Okay, and then here's a graph that shows public support for the Green New Deal by state. And so as you can see, the strongest proponents are in California and a few states on the East Coast. 1 second. Dad, can you go? I'm presenting. Okay, anyways, please stop. Oh my God. Sorry, I just need to emotionally recover from that. Okay, almost done. Last slide, controversy over the Green New Deal. So there's an act from 2009, which is Obama's American Recovery and Reinvestment Act. And this act is also known as like the Stimulus Act. And people don't really know, but a lot of the elements in it were to like sort of switch to green energy, which was going to help keep the American economy stable. And so it's used as a roadmap for modern day legislation. So yeah, the main goal of the stimulus was to save the economy from a depression in the short term, which is why its push to move the economy towards clean energy in the long term was overlooked. So we need bipartisan agreement for meaningful action. Determining the substantive details of a Green New Deal is already exposing political divisions. Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez, who is the person who is credited for introducing the bill, not the bill, it's not a bill, it's not legislation, remember that, for introducing the Green New Deal. And other leftists see it as a vehicle to not only address the climate emergency, but to root out inequality and transform capitalism. She's described it as the Great Society, the moonshot, the civil rights movement of our generation. Whereas other mainstream Democrats who are more moderate would prefer to focus on cutting emissions that threaten the planet and transforming energy rather than like how our society is structured, racial injustice, and the wage gap, things like that. Anyways, a lot of Republicans don't really even acknowledge that there is a climate emergency, and the ones who do are skeptical of aggressive big government mobilization to address it. And so, yeah, it's going to be difficult in the long term to get people to agree. So that's why making sure that we as the public understand what's happening with the climate emergency is important, because then politicians can't deny that there is a problem that needs to be solved and they can actually focus on solving it. So that is our presentation. We have a Kahoot now. How do I stop sharing? Stop share.